Welcome back to the channel. This is ETT. What I'm talking about today is the FeiyuTech AK2000C. It's right here. It's a gimbal. A gimbal is a device that helps you to stabilize your camera. This is actually a 3-axis gimbal. It's stabilized in the pan, the tilt, and the roll. So the pan, left to right, the tilt, up to down, and the roll kind of side to side. So that is how it's stabilized. So when you're walking with the gimbal, it keeps all of these axes stable. This gimbal was loaned to me by a friend, Boy Pedro. I'll link him so you can watch his content also. I've been testing this gimbal now for a couple of days. What I like about this gimbal, which is now standard in most gimbals, is that it has a locking mechanism. So when you're balancing the gimbal, you can lock all 3 axes. And what that means is that if you're trying to balance the pan, you can lock the roll and the tilt. If you're trying to balance the tilt, you can lock the pan and the roll. And that makes balancing the gimbal much simpler. But that's standard now, so that's not a breakout feature of this gimbal. This gimbal also is not a gimbal that you will use with a lot of payload. It's more a mid-range gimbal for like a small DSLR or more mirrorless camera. As you can see, I have my Sony a7S on it with my 24-70 lens. It actually works well for that. The things that I've learned about it so far, I really like the inception mode in this gimbal. When inception mode was just coming about, some of the gimbals you would have to hold on to a button in order to have the gimbal continuously doing inception mode. In this gimbal, however, it is as simple as just pressing a button on the screen and it can do 1 revolution left or 1 revolution right, or you can put it in continuous left or continuous right. Even more so, you can control the speed of the inception, which is pretty cool. So you don't even have to touch the gimbal. You can set it in inception mode and just leave it and it basically does the inception mode. That is amazing in this gimbal. One of the next thing about this gimbal that I love is that it has a touch screen that is very responsive. I can swipe left and swipe right to go in the various menu, and when I press it, it responds to me. With gimbals, you can actually use your phone to operate the gimbal, and this gimbal also have it. You need to download the app that is called FeiyuTech in order to access the gimbal and use your phone to control it. I have this app on my phone from a long time ago because I had a next gimbal, a smaller gimbal that was from FeiyuTech. As I said, the app allows you to control the gimbal. So if you notice, I can turn the gimbal left and right. I can do most of the basic features on the gimbal with the app. However, I think the app is lacking. One of the things that I was looking for in the app or in the gimbal itself is so that the gimbal can use your phone to track you. And the reason being, I have had experience with another company that makes gimbal, and that company is Zhiyun. Now with the Zhiyun gimbals, you can actually put your phone on top of the gimbal and have it track you around using your phone. This feature is even more so important in 2021. Reason being, most times we are shooting by ourselves because of Corona. And you would love to be able to set the gimbal down, put your phone on it, and have the phone track you. Means that the gimbal will actually follow you around. So that is one of the downside of this gimbal. I was searching through the app. I was searching all over to find out if you can actually use your phone to track yourself. Now, for me, that is a big downfall because most times I'm shooting myself just like this. And I would like to put the gimbal one side and make it a second camera. So if I move over here or I move over there, the gimbal itself could follow me. It doesn't have that feature, so this gimbal is really not for me. Would I recommend this gimbal? Yes, I would recommend this gimbal, especially if you have like a A7 III or A7S or any small mirrorless camera or a mid-size DSLR. I would recommend this gimbal if that feature is not important to you. It is pretty good. It is not too heavy, just heavy enough that you feel like you're holding something in your hand, and it is pretty stable. I've done some test footage with it. I was, at the skate park doing some skating and doing some shots with it, so it is pretty stable. However, the feature that is most important to me, it lacks it, and because of that, I couldn't buy this gimbal. One of the next thing that I'm somewhat disappointed with this gimbal about is the motion time lapse. I guess because it's a motion time lapse, it means that it will be taking pictures. However, I wanted it, and I guess all these things are based on what I want from a gimbal. I wanted it to work in such a way that I can set a point and set a next point and just have it continuously move throughout that point to capture video. I guess because I'm trying to capture more video than photos, this gimbal just seems more of like a gimbal that is more catered to capturing photos. Even when I link the gimbal with my camera, I find it that the photo features works best as opposed to the video features. When I link the gimbal with my camera, I actually get additional features on the gimbal. However, when I go into the camera features, so when you add a camera to it, you use the USB-C cable in the box to attach it to your camera. One of my issue with that is that if your camera doesn't have USB-C, you are gonna have to go and buy a cable. When you connect it to your camera, you get some additional features in it. With my camera, the A7 III, I find it that these additional features, I couldn't really use them. I don't know why, but I just couldn't use them. When I was pressing on them, nothing was happening. So I couldn't control the camera. I was able to take pictures with it, but I wasn't able to do anything else. I wasn't even able to start the camera recording. I don't know if it's my camera I want to update, or I don't know if it's a gimbal that needs to update. But something probably needs to update. So like most gimbals these days, you know that most gimbals come with auto calibration. This gimbal also have that. So you put your camera in it, it's not 100% balanced. You can just go into auto calibration. The gimbal shakes and work out your payload of your camera and basically calibrate for that. As I said, this gimbal is pretty smooth. I like it for that, but the downfalls, not being able to track me using my phone, the motion time-lapse feature, which is a next feature that I want to be able to set a point and set a next point and just have it moving across that point for whatever time. I don't feel like it's a comprehensive feature because it only works with photo. I was trying to even hack it to see if I can start it and then plug out the camera, but it still does it like a photo thing where it stop at one point and then move and then stop at the next point. It just wasn't working for me. I would recommend this gimbal to somebody who doesn't need all these features that I'm talking about. I have specific features that I need for a specific reason based on the type of content that I create. For a person who just wants a gimbal to go out and use a gimbal, or a gimbal is normally used just to balance your camera, this would be a perfect gimbal. It's not that expensive. It's a good mid-range gimbal. Alright guys, that's the next one. This is ETT. Blessings and guidance.